ثم قيل له يا رسول الله أوصنا، فكان مما أوصى به قوله استوصوا بالنساء خيرا. واستوصوا بآل بيتي خيرا ليحيينا بذلك حياة تتصل بحضرته. لما قال أهل بيتي نسبها إلى حضرته؟ ليعلمنا أن انتقاله من الدنيا لا يعني انقطاع صلتنا بحضرته. استوصوا بآل بيتي أي أن معاني صلتكم بي تبقى ما بقي آل بيتي بين ظهرانيكم.
The truth.
استوصوا بآل بيتي أي أن معاني صلتكم بي تبقى ما بقي آل بيتي بين ظهرانيكم.
Son, we live in a world that has walls, and those walls have to be guarded by men with guns. How did your men lose him?
How can someone bring so much disruption to our cause? We have tried to stop him, but many lives have been claimed by his steel. He fights like no man. People say he moves like an angel of death, carrying fury on his wings. Nonsense. These are just stories. Such myths do not exist.
This man is costing us a fortune to contain.
We have to stop him, or everything we work for will be destroyed.
How do we restrain this angel of yours? Raise an army against one man?
By 1919, the Ottoman Empire was in shambles, falling apart, and a British army under General Allenby, with many Arabs and Punjabi Muslims fighting faithfully under his control, attacked the Turkish garrison which was defending Jerusalem, defeated it, and liberated the Holy Land. This was a joyous day for the Jews, because now the countdown is really moving forward and the golden age is coming back. In the same 1919, when the Ottoman Empire is collapsing and it is losing all its non-Turkish possessions, all the Arab parts of the Ottoman Empire are falling away, the Greek army now invades the Turkish mainland, Anatolia. And the Turkish people now have a tremendous fright in their hearts, because the Greeks hate them with a PhD in hatred. So Britain now has to create a Turkish general who would appear to the Turkish people as a savior who has come down from the heavens with his hands resting on the wings of angels to save the Turkish people. And so at a place called Gallipoli, a man named Mustafa Kemal inflicts a defeat on the ruling state in the world, Britain, and immediately climbs the ladder to become the hero of all heroes in Turkish history. Very convenient, isn't it? Mustafa Kemal now takes over. He is in fact de facto ruler over the Ottoman Empire, and the Khalifa is just a piece of furniture. In 1920, I think, or 21, there was a big treaty, negotiations in Versailles, and from this emerged now the Turkish Republic, which replaces the Ottoman Islamic State. But Mustafa Kemal said, the Turkish people love their Khalifa. So if Europe could have a pope, why can't we have a pope too? This was simplistic thinking on the part of Mustafa Kemal. If the Europeans could have a pope, well, so too can we. So the new Turkish government of Mustafa Kemal decided to take the Khilafah and remove from it all political authority and make the Khalifa the equivalent of the Pope. This was 1922. And things were going fine for him. Turkish people were happy. Khilafah is still there. And the leadership of the revolution in Turkey were very happy because we have a secular state now, modeled after the European state. But in 1924, on the 3rd of March, suddenly Britain demanded, of course, this is secret, they won't reveal it, Britain demanded of Mustafa Kemal that he must abolish the Khilafah. The demand came from Britain. And on the 3rd of March 1924, the Turkish Republic abolished the Khilafah.
There are two main branches of Islam, Sunni and Shiite. Their differences date back to a leadership dispute following the death in 632 of the founder of Islam, the Prophet Muhammad. Most of the Prophet's companions supported his friend and father-in-law Abu Bakr as his successor, but others believed power should have passed to Ali, the Prophet's cousin and son-in-law, and Ali's sons and their descendants. Despite contrasting theological and religious practices, the world's 1.6 billion Muslims are united in agreement that Allah is the only God and the Prophet Muhammad is his messenger. Both branches also believe the Muslim sacred text, the Quran, is as the word of God. Sunnis are the majority across the Islamic world, representing 80% of Muslims. In the Middle East, among Sunni countries, Saudi Arabia is widely considered the most powerful, while Iran is the Shiite Muslim powerhouse. Staying in the Middle East, Shiites are also the majority in Iraq and Bahrain. In addition, there are significant Shiite communities in Pakistan, Lebanon, Yemen, Syria, Saudi Arabia, and the Gulf. Differences between the two, often fueled by politics, have led to violence in a number of countries recently, including Syria and Iraq. In Syria, Sunnis have increasingly dominated the opposition to President Bashar al-Assad's regime. Assad belongs to the Alawite sect, an offshoot of Shiite Islam. During the conflict, Shiite Iran has backed the Damascus government. Sunni Saudi Arabia has helped fund the rebels. In Iraq, meanwhile, the 2003 US-led invasion that toppled Saddam Hussein's Sunni-dominated regime led to a dramatic shift in power as the long-oppressed Shiite majority took over. This triggered sectarian fighting, which has again engulfed the country. Iraq's Sunni minority feels disenfranchised by the Shiite-led government. Extremists have taken advantage of this discontent, spurred on by advances made by Sunni militants fighting in neighbouring Syria. One radical Sunni jihadist group in particular has gained power and influence. Known as the Islamic State Organization, it has amassed considerable resources, money, weapons and oil through its brutal Iraq offensive. IS has declared a strict Islamic regime in territories it controls in Syria and Iraq and seeks to expand to other Muslim countries.
It's October 2015, and what you're going to learn about is all over the internet. Nobody's ever done a video on it though. The Royal House of Saudi Arabia, because it's the Royal House of the Sauds, they called it Saudi Arabia, it claimed to be Jewish. So the entire Muslim world is being led by Jews. The Wahhabis, the Wahhabs, which run Qatar, claim to be Jewish. So the entire Muslim world is being led by people who claim to be Jewish. Now that in and of itself should shock you. Kazakhstan Empire, which was this region, Caspian Sea, Black Sea, Turkey, this is Europe. Kazakhstan Empire extended throughout this entire region, especially in Kiev. So that was Kazakhstan. In 851, the Kazakhstan Empire lasted from 350 to 1048, and then it shifted, but that's okay. The Maslik clan in 851, now we'll go down here, wandered into Riyadh. And they took Riyadh, they were thrown out, they took refuge in the farms, and not reading the Quran and not reading the Old Testament, they read the books produced here in Jerusalem about how, well, I'll give you an example. Rabbi Obadiah Seph said, Gentiles were born only to serve. They are only born to serve those of Israel. So they just conquered and destroyed the people, the farm he took refuge in, he killed them. And then the Saudi Arabian family killed all the farmers. And then they met the Wahhabs, which was another group. They took Riyadh again, and they declared this as the Saudi Arabia. And they ruled Saudi Arabia in clans. Now let's fast forward to modern times, because we now know that the Saudi Arabians, with these people, they were being pushed by the Russian Orthodox Church and the Muslims, and they said, no, we're Jewish, we're Jewish. Yeah, well, they don't read the Quran and they don't read the Old Testament, so they can't be nothing. But anyway, in 1914, this was the Ottoman Empire, extended down here. And the Royal House of Saud swore loyalty to the Ottoman Empire and received weapons, and they received guns. And a year later, the English came by with more weapons and more guns, and guess what? They re-swore loyalty to the British. In 1932, Standard Oil, which had the maps for all of the oil all around the world, they knew where the oil was. They started digging in Saudi Arabia. In 1939, the first oil well opened, and the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds started supporting the Saudi Arabians. In 1944, Aramco. We get the oil into the United States Corporation, we sell the oil to Mobil, and then we buy weapons for Saudi Arabia. So they have to kill and destroy. Right now they're bombing Yemen and Oman on their southern border, Queen of Sheba's great empire, to steal their oil. When the dollar resets, the dollar stopped to Saudi Arabia, and we need to pray for the royal Saudi family, which is one of the most evil, nasty people that walk into a business and kill the owners and take the owners. They make Al Capone look like a piker. And you, the American taxpayer and the English taxpayer, support the Saudi family. This is why we need to pray for them. They are the most evil family on the planet. And in Qatar, we'll look back at the map here. In Saudi Arabia, Prince Abdel Attabi got caught importing 5,000 pounds of bacon into Saudi Arabia. Here in Qatar, you can now buy pork. In Israel, you can now buy pork. And the other thing is, the Quran prohibits having kings. If the king of Saudi Arabia was a Muslim, why would he be a king? That makes no sense. They don't follow the Quran. They claim to be Jews, but they're Jews from here, not Jews from here. And the Jews here in Israel, they don't read the Old Testament. They don't read the Quran. They're importing pork now. You can buy pork all over this region, which is supposed to be Muslim. When they open up their oil wells in a few months, we're not going to need Saudi Arabian oil. The money will dry up, and Yemen will be helped by the Russians, and Oman will be helped by the Russians, because the oil up in here does not belong to Saudi Arabia. It belongs to the people of Yemen and Oman. And when that dries up, which will be within a year or two, it's over for Saudi Arabia. Qatar's oil will not be needed. Those people who claim to be Muslims, the Wahhabi Muslims, Wahhabis claim to be Jews. The Saudis claim to be Jews. The entire Muslim world is being led by Jewish people. Wake up, folks. It's all going to get right. All we need to do is pray that this corrects itself, and God will deal with it. Thank you very much, and pray for the Saudi family that they actually turn away from their master Lucifer and turn back and turn to God. They've never in their history turned to God. Thank you very much, and have a good night.
Don't lose the beat now. Just get your head down. Expecting her fight. You hear the people sing. People are dancing, teenage romancing. It's carnival time. Ready, get ready. Come to the rock stage. It's carnival time. You hear the people sing.
Mordecai, Prince of Persia. A Jew. Of Mordecai, Prince of Persia. A Jew. Seal of Mordecai, Prince of Persia. Mordecai, Prince of Persia.
Adam Gadon, the so-called American Al-Qaeda who proclaimed himself the media maven, if you will, for Al-Qaeda and was helping to produce a lot of these so-called Al-Qaeda videos that were all over the internet that made Al-Qaeda look really bad and made the Muslims look bad.
Should you fail to comply in full, we will deem it sufficient justification to continue to fight and kill Americans.
Come to find out, Adam Gadon's real name was Adam Perlman. And not only was he, in fact, Jewish, he was the grandson of a member of the board of the Anti-Defamation League. And if you've been following the history of the Anti-Defamation League, you will find out they've been very much involved in covertly supporting a lot of these so-called American Nazi movements. In fact, all the way back, just about the time of World War II, there was this scandal where the head of the American Nazi Party, which had a total membership of like 6, and yet they were getting all this press, was arrested for embezzling from his sponsors, which turned out to be the ADL, so that kind of blew up in their faces. So anyway, we have Adam Perlman, and he's been going around saying, I'm Al-Qaeda, I'm Al-Qaeda, see, I got a turban on my head, I'm a terrible Muslim, gotta hate me, gotta be afraid of me, and of course everybody's laughing at him now because we all know who he is. Okay, so they have brought in the understudy, and there is a new American Al-Qaeda named Yosef Al-Khattab. Ooh, big scary name, and they've got a picture of him out there where he's holding all these guns and knives, and he's dressed up like a wannabe Rambo, and he's scowling at the camera, and he supposedly has this website with things in it, like pictures of the Statue of Liberty with an axe buried in the back of the head. I mean, very heavy-handed, very over-the-top.
There was also a link to a puppet show mocking Danny Pearl's beheading. Take a look. Oh, that's awful.
You know, just looking more like a movie prop than anything else here. So, as it turns out, this is another fake. His real name is Joseph Cohen.
He's a 39-year-old New York City taxi driver, as you mentioned. He called himself Yosef Al-Khattab, but he was born Joseph Cohen here in America. He is a Jew.
And he is another manufactured front to try and convince Americans that Al-Qaeda is actually here in the United States. And this is why we've got to be doing this, doing surveillance on the American people and reading their email and listening to their phone calls and all this stuff, because you never know when we're going to get into a situation with the American Al-Qaeda. And it's all a front. It's a fake. He's up there. He's there to try and create an enemy that doesn't really exist in order to justify the totalitarian treatment of the American people and to encourage us to go and attack them before they kill us. They're already here on the home front. We've got to go bomb those gosh darn Muslims, because they're infiltrating America, and they're ripping tags off of couch cushions, and they're causing global warming, and we've got to go into... It's nonsense. It's all war propaganda.
And next up for the news from Now the End Begins, Saudi Prince Al-Walid bin Talal makes jaw-dropping statement about Israel. I will side with the Jewish nation and its democratic aspirations in case of outbreak of a Palestinian intifada or uprising, bin Talal was quoted as saying by Kuwaiti Al-Qobas Daily. In a startling statement, Saudi Prince Al-Walid bin Talal has said that he will side with Israel in case of a Palestinian uprising and that he would attempt to break any Arab initiatives set to condemn the Jewish nation. I will side with the Jewish nation and its democratic aspirations in case of an outbreak of Palestinian intifada. He says, I shall exert all my influence to break any ominous Arab initiatives set to condemn Tel Aviv, because I deem the Arab-Israeli entente and future friendship necessary to impede the Iranian dangerous encroachment. He added, according to the Kuwaiti Daily, the prince and entrepreneur urged the Saudi kingdom to devise a new strategy to combat Iran's increasing influence in Gulf states by forging a defense pact with Tel Aviv to deter any possible Iranian moves in the light of unfolding developments in Syria and Moscow's military intervention. The Saudi prince is on a regional tour visiting the other Gulf Arab littoral states, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates and Oman to muster support for Saudi-backed rebels in Syria, reported the Daily. The whole Middle East dispute is tantamount to matter of life and death for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia from my vantage point, and I know that Iranians seek to unseat the Saudi regime by playing the Palestinian card. Hence, to foil their plots, Saudi Arabia and Israel must bolster their relations and form a united front to stymie Tehran's ambitious agenda, Kuwaiti news agency reported him as saying on Tuesday. Question: is this a facade? Is this a plot to usher in the New World Order, the Antichrist through Saudi Arabia? The Saudi prince maintained that Iran sought to bolster its presence in the Mediterranean by supporting the Assad regime in Syria. He added that Russia has become a real co-belligerent force in Syria's 4-year-old civil war by attacking CIA-trained rebels, which was why there was a need for a Saudi-Israeli nexus to frustrate Russia-Iran-Hezbollah axis. Further, he said that Riyadh and Tel Aviv must achieve a modus vivendi for Saudi policy in regard to Arab-Israeli crisis was no longer tenable. Bin Talal also spoke about Saudi Arabia's military presence in Bahrain to stifle the 2011 pro-deaconry movement. Further, he said that Riyadh and Tel Aviv must achieve a modus vivendi for Saudi policy in regard to Arab-Israeli crisis was no longer tenable. Bin Talal also spoke about Saudi Arabia's military presence in Bahrain to stifle the 2011 pro-deaconry movement. You know, the union with Bahrain doesn't explicitly mean to annex our dear neighbors, but in fact we are wary about the future of Bahrain, its people, security, and well-being. Bahrain is the home to U.S. Fifth Fleet, which its presence is of vital interest for Saudi Arabia. Thus, we cannot permit Iran to wreak havoc in our backyard.
Islam commands that sovereignty is only for the laws of Allah, and that the nation does not depend on anyone else for its security. It also commands that it is for the Muslims to appoint a just ruler and that the affairs of the people are the ruler's primary concern. After destroying the Khilafah in 1924, these principles were swept aside, and the Western powers carved the Muslim Ummah into nation-states, installing puppet regimes in order to ensure the suffocation of the people, both intellectually and politically. Saudi Arabia is one of these imperialist creations. All the politically corrupt regimes in the Muslim world need to be challenged and replaced with one Islamic state, the Khilafah. Our Khilafah was overthrown in the year 1924 by spies. The modern-day Kingdom of Saudi Arabia came into existence as a result of a rebellion cleverly engineered by the British. Britain sought to strike the Islamic State from within. Followers of the Wahhabi madhab had managed to establish themselves a force to be reckoned with within the Islamic State led by Muhammad ibn Saud and later by his son Abdul Aziz. Britain supplied them with weapons and money, and they proceeded to move on a sectarian basis to seize the land which was under authority of the Khilafah. This cleverly engineered coup d'etat took up arms against the Khilafah and fought the Islamic forces, all the time goaded on by the British. It was well known at that time that the House of Saud were British agents. The House of Saud and its sectarian army, the Wahhabi madhab, were supplied with weapons, money and other resources by the British. They exploited the Wahhabi madhab with the aim of fighting the Khilafah and clashing with other madhabs in order to incite sectarian wars with the Uthmani Khilafah. The followers of the Wahhabi madhab were largely unaware of this, but the Saudi Emir was fully aware. This is because the relationship was not between the British and Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, but between the British and the House of Saud. The reward for the House of Saud for being the dogs which bark for the British was planned rulership over the Hijaz. The House of Saud, once in power as a rulership over the Hijaz, arrogantly named the land the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in the year 1933, the only state in the world to be named after a family.
Saudi Arabia, and the Somari Seven, that is the wife of King Abdulaziz. Let's put it this way, very simply. The Faisal and Saud families are not legitimate heirs to Saudi Arabia. It was created by England. They created, in a concept called divide and conquer, a family that came out of Doria. Most of you saw that in the Lawrence of Arabia film. It does not exist. They are Wahhabis. They distort the Quran. The message of the Quran throughout history has always been peace and love and working with all of the religions. They were formidable, and the Wahhabis are the total distortion. The true descendants of Mecca and Medina are not the King Faisal of Saudi. They are the Hashemites. But the British took them away from Saudi Arabia, put one in Iraq who was 4 years old, and another one in Jordan, so that they would never have an ability to have the true leaders of Prophet of Muhammad. So what we have here is a collusion between Saudi Arabia and the neocon Jews of America and Israel against a president who, whether I like or dislike, and may have lied on Osama bin Laden, is the son it's the son of a CIA operative, the grandson of a CIA operative who understands very well what the issues of intelligence are, including the United States ambassador. I also know that they created a lot of agitation and propaganda in Morocco in order to force the Moroccan Jews to leave a very friendly friend to the Jews, King Hassan of Morocco. So the Israelis and the Zionists have created used the Jews of the diaspora, that means the Polish, Russian Jews, and Sephardic Jews, as a weapon to manipulate world opinion, to create agitation propaganda, in the same way Saudi Arabia is using their people, the Salafists, to be the thugmen against the United States, and use it in the term of Al-Qaeda or any form they want. But Saudi Arabia, which is falling apart now because it's only a second and third generation illegitimate ruling class from an illegitimate king, is now in the process of failing apart. Both states, Israel and Saudi Arabia, are in desperate situation. Saudi Arabia and Israel are twins. They're doppelgangers. There's no way you can separate Israel from Saudi Arabia or Saudi Arabia of Israel. They go back all the way to 9/11. They go back to the days when Jimmy Carter fired 4,000 operatives because the people went to Saudi Arabia. Those people who were left in the agency went to Saudi Arabia, the Mossad, and the Pakistani ISI to reconstitute an intelligence service which was totally illegal. And many of those who came in the Carter administration, Jews, like Dennis Ross, Martin Indyk, who was an operative underneath the Australian government and was an American citizen for only 1 day, was appointed an American ambassador to Israel so Dennis Ross, a neocon, could control him.
Human beings have always been inventing different tools for their different needs. One of the most frequently used yet simple tools is the crowbar. Crowbar is a metallic bar bent at one end and widened at the other. The crowbar is used to split up wooden pieces that are nailed together. Crowbars are known as first-grade levers. Now hold that in mind about crowbars because later on we will get back to it. As it was mentioned before, each tool is used to achieve a certain goal. Many social organizations and groups formed by different political and social parties also have their own special use and purpose. Wahhabism is one of these creations. Just like any other tool, Wahhabism serves a special purpose, which is to divide Sunnis and Shiites. Shiites and Sunnis are like two pieces of wood firmly nailed together. They form a harmonic reality, firmly cemented by Quran and the Holy Prophet's tradition. Wahhabism, on the other hand, custom-made by the West, has become a tool in the hands of the totalitarians and colonial powers utilized to divide Shiites and Sunnis and tear apart this reality. Just like any physical activity requires a certain tool, different tools have also been created to divide the Muslim Ummah. It is only then that the West can weaken the Islamic world and control the region. From all the species that live around us, termites are a special kind because of what they eat: wood. Termites chew wood, soften it in their mouth by special enzymes, and then consume it. The wood is also used for making nests with super strong structures that guarantee the safety of living for the colony. Termites are harmful for humans. These insects make their way into the wooden parts of homes and buildings and secretly eat away the wood. Their presence is only realized when it is too late and the disaster has already taken place. The tunnels dug by this species weaken the wood and eventually cause its sudden destruction. Secrecy is one of the main reasons why termites are harmful. They keep working in the dark until it's time for the lethal kick. In our social lives too, things occur that poke holes into our beliefs without us being aware. Wahhabism, just like the termites, is secretly eating away the vast tree of Islamic beliefs, slowly taking out its life. And just like the termites that use chewed wood to make strong nests, Wahhabism also uses its rhetoric to overturn Islamic beliefs and make a safe nest for itself.
حياك الله وياك. يعني
علينا صغير يعني.
هي كان لسه عليه
خطر عظيم.
These crawling movements only came into light when their weak Islamic basis and void beliefs took shape as Al-Qaeda, Taliban, and the ISIS. Wahhabism is a plague that Western countries, in particular the UK, brought into the Islamic world. And the secret to its long-lasting life lies in devoiding Islamic beliefs from the inside. Ivies are breathtakingly beautiful plants. No matter where you see them, they are just so pleasant to look at. But only if you notice them. Ivies belong to the clinging plants, meaning that to grow larger, they need to wrap themselves around trees or garden fencings. This guarantees them more sunlight, which in turn means a longer life. There are different types of ivies out there, among which the poison ivy is the most famous. It originates from the Americas. The poison ivy is especially known for its triple leaves. When wrapping themselves around, say, a tree, they change its entire appearance. The tree looks nothing like a tree anymore. Ivies slowly work their way up and around the tree, and in a matter of a few years, nothing will be left of the tree but its outer skin. The insides are all consumed by the ivy. The tree has slowly become dead. Wahhabism is a custom-made sect clinging to the tree of Islam and slowly wrapping itself around it. Wahhabism is like the weeds growing on a farm. It consumes the potentials of Islamic world and ultimately causes its growth to stop. Wahhabism has slowly worked its way up the tree of Islam and is changing its image. This trend will continue to the extent where Islam is emptied of life and nothing is left from its original teachings. Britain and other Western governments have planted the seeds of this poison ivy in the region to stop the real Islam. Because uprooting the real Islam and changing its image is key to their survival.
Because they have managed to infiltrate the literature of the mosques with the ideologues of ISIS. Take me to any mosque in Mombasa and I will show you the names of the ideologues in ISIS have already been put in the cabinets of the mosques without our brothers in Ahlul Sunnah realizing that one by one their books are being covered with ISIS ideologues. Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyah, Ibn al-Jawzi, Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab, all of them, they're ideologues of ISIS. The thoughts of ISIS, you'll find them in the mosques of our brothers in Ahlul Sunnah. When children are being brought up with that rhetoric, and when lecturers are lecturing saying Shaykh Ibn Taymiyyah, may Allah bless his soul, Sheikh Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyah, may Allah bless his soul. When they say Sheikh Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab, may Allah bless his soul, then I tell you, this piece of land that you're in and the whole of Kenya is 1 minute away from a terrorist attack. You already know on whose borders they're sitting. You already know that in East Africa and in West Africa, ISIS is growing, and ISIS will not die easily, that I can assure you, because it is penetrating everywhere. And unless the Sunni world is aware, then do not be surprised that that friend of yours, when they're not religious, you're safe from them. Let them get religious and you're in big trouble. Yes? That's number 2. Number 3, when you discuss ISIS, why? The third reason you discuss ISIS is you can have an understanding of the theological and legal edicts. Don't think that our brothers in Ahl Sunnah, the ideologues of their school, have not given edicts about the killing of Shia. There have been many edicts, and therefore ISIS is nothing new. It is just the world of Ahl Sunnah at its most radical and most complete. I don't mean to say that in any way as an insult to any of my brethren who are listening. I'm talking about literature and the ideologues. Our brothers in Ahl Sunnah, in their books, what's happening with ISIS is not surprising at all. If a Sunni is allowed to read his literature properly, if he's allowed to read Ibn Taymiyyah's Minhaj al-Sunnah, if he's allowed to read Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab's The Red on the Rafidah, if he's allowed to read Ibn al-Jawzi and the Talbis of Iblis on the Shia, if he's allowed to read, for example, Ibn al-Arabi al-Makki and his opinion that don't debate the Shia, it's easier to use the sword against them. If they're allowed to see all of this, then believe me, children will be brought up from our brothers who can't wait to decapitate or to cut our bodies into pieces, whether they are our arms or whether they are our heads. Many of our Sunni brethren do not know any of this, by the way. Many of them, you will find, do not know that many of their greatest ulama have got edicts which say, kill the Shi'i. We're lucky, by the way, to be called by their ulama Shi'i. Normally it's kill the Rawafid, yes? But there is one country where there is no difference between it and ISIS, and that is Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is the root of ISIS. If Saudi Arabia tells you it has a problem with ISIS, what's the problem? You have a problem with executions, you execute. Beheadings, you behead. Anti-Shia, you're anti-Shia. Anti-Christian, you're anti-Christian. Plurality of opinion, you've got a problem when it comes to plurality of opinions. When Saudi Arabia gives you the rhetoric that it's against ISIS, it's the biggest load of nonsense politically in this world. Saudi Arabia has absolutely no problem with ISIS whatsoever. Saudi Arabia's only problem is that the call for caliphate within ISIS means there's a threat to their leadership. Otherwise, the vision of ISIS is the vision of Saudi. The complete destruction of Shi'ism, the complete destruction of Christianity, the complete killing of those who go towards the graves, the killing of those who believe in intercession. And further than that, execution and beheading is something normal. If you look at the rhetoric of ISIS and the rhetoric of Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab, the ideologue of the Wahhabi school in Saudi Arabia, there is absolutely no difference between the rhetoric of ISIS and the rhetoric of the Wahhabis. And I, by the way, I'm calling them Wahhabis. They don't like to be called Wahhabis. They like to be called Salafis, yes? The Sunni world is in absolute disarray at the moment. A Sunni today does not know whether to call themselves Sunni, Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, Wahhabi, Salafi, Salafi conservative, Salafi liberal, Deobandi, Ahmadi, Brelwi. They don't know whether to call themselves Hanafi, Maliki, Hanbali, Shafi'i, Ash'arite, Sufi, Ash'arite, Hanafi, Mu'tazilite, Shafi'i. There are so many names today, Ahl Sunnah doesn't know who to turn to. And even for their authority figures, they're in complete disarray.
Hello, Skywatch and YouTube, the world. This is a little edition of what I call the reality news. Just to get a few people out there that aren't really understanding this yet, and I'd like to give a shout out to almost everyone out there that is now beginning to see the relationship between these things that have taken our land from us, our world from us, and declared themselves the owners. So this first picture is someone who has laid claim by way of birth to millions of acres of the nation I live in, Canada, and millions of acres of Australia, and in some cases entire nations are owned by this, I'm going to say, thing. What else can this fucking say, right? So the other player in all this, of course, is at the top end of it all, above the aristocrat families that are beneath her, that are in Switzerland and throughout the UK and everywhere. Because these things downbreed, and if you wonder why they've been able to maintain power, why people haven't just walked up and said, hey, listen, you old bat, you no longer own 20 million acres of my nation, or 50 million acres. No, you don't. And if you have a problem with that, you just fucking come and try to take it. But you see, all the ones that feed from the crumbs from her table, being her kin and downline, and the ones underneath them that are working for them, getting paid well, they all support this. And I've given this analogy before. If you go back a few hundred years even, and you have some knowledge of how things go in this world. In other words, I've said it before, this person, the name that they've given is not even the name that this queen mom thing that has taken over the world. I understand the name was something like Saxe Gotha, which is, it all goes back to that area of the world and the Nazi movement. But it's preposterous that this thing, this one human soul, can lay claim to millions of acres of the planet and then be supported by all her henchmen, which would be her immediate family and the powers that be, money printers around and, you know, movers around them. It's the fault of that the only reason they can do this is because they own the military power as well, and our own kind are willing to betray us and enforce that. Even here in this nation, Canada, supposedly we had our flag removed from her, we got our new flag and we became a free independent nation. Well, sorry about that. There's millions of acres here that you cannot even go and build a little cabin on to live. And they will enforce that just like they did back in the days of Robbie Reed. That's her cattle, that land, millions of acres. So between her and the Vatican, these people dwarf and completely crush the lore of the mighty men of our economy, the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and so on. That these people are punks in comparison to what this gang has in its power. And when you add the land holdings and the vast treasure resources, among other things, and the control structures that the Vatican has, they basically own the world. Above Soros and all of them. Oh yeah, fuck. I mean, like I said, Rothschild was the European and Rockefeller was the American money control system. Most people in the United States don't realize that their dollar had collapsed a long time ago until they connected it up to the oil. And then, of course, it fattened the nation. Saddam was about to used the euro, and that's why he died, because they kill people when you start to fuck with their money printing. That's how they run you, and that's how they award this thing and her clan millions of acres of this fucking planet that does not belong to them at all. Okay, so there it is. Millions and millions of acres of my nation, all the Commonwealth, Australia. And let's look at another picture, because there's a little more disgusting shit to get through before I, start with my topic I wanted to do here. And so here's the most recent disgusting leader of this corrupt organization that goes back. They were all dirty. There was never anything. You'll hear Catholics accusing this one of being the evil Jesuit Antichrist Pope, but you'll hear them praising other saintly things and so on of the old order. There was never anything but corruption there, and this makes me sick to see this thing, this broad skull thing with that little baby boy. It just turns my stomach, because he'll do photo ops like this Jesuit Pope will do photo ops like this, and outside this city, wherever he is, there are little kids like this that are not dressed so well for the photo op, and their hair's not so kempt, and they haven't been so well fed, and their skin doesn't look near as good because they're living in dumps. And this fucking thing doesn't care about that, because he controls all that wealth with that thing that I showed you to begin with. So this makes me sick. But there's something else that really makes me sick today, folks. And you see, there are other people in the world besides this thing who is supposedly the last one, and he's all for all religions uniting, and he's even bringing the Satanists in, because let's face it, that's who he works for, in my opinion. He works for the evil, whatever that be in your mind. And they always have. We have been completely lied to about our religion in this world, in every nation, Muslim, Christian. So it's a very sad thing to see someone allowing this thing to touch that little human child, in my view. And I'm allowed to have my opinion, right? But if you think that thing that's hoarding all of this wealth and power, that is basically the command and control structure, you see, I believe the Queen holds title to all of that land by her clan, but she is not above these things. They are directly related. They are directly connected by some form of blood, even, if you get me. So between these two organizations, this corporate organization of this thing, and the sheer and massive land holdings awarded to their compatriot over there in the UK, in that clan, who divides it up amongst all the rest underneath, and of course it goes down. We have been betrayed, folks, by our own kind too. But this is how disgusting they are, and this is what I want to show you. One more picture of that thing there, and we'll have a look at this. Hang on. This is the fake Arab clan that they installed, who are directly connected to them as well, to those same two groups that I showed you, the Buckingham clan and the Saxe-Gotha and the Vatican. And these white Ashkenazis have been hiding in these sheets since the very first days of the creation of this state. And they've been wearing the Saturn rings on their heads, and they've been dyeing their fucking mustaches with looks like shoe polish, their white faces, and parading around as Arab Muslims for as many decades as I've been alive. And if you want to know how corrupt these people are, this is the royal, whatever, the guy, I think he just died, this one. But The family, the House of Saud, is not Arab. You can look at them. Oh, they bred, there's lots. Now, they buried this white-ass Ashkenazi bloodline, him and his brothers, into the Arab culture so deeply. And this is a good example, a living example, of what these broad-skull fucking non-human things did to us. Now, you're wondering why I'm over here in Saudi Arabia when I was talking about Buckingham Palace and then the Vatican. Well, I'll tell you in a minute. $1.4 trillion in wealth, at least that's what they're willing to publicize. Do you know how much money that is? And here's the disgusting, despicable truth right here in front of your face. They've been in power since 1744. And remember, these guys go back, they've been playing this game a long time. Of course, they may have been changed into guys from the Eastern European area like this at some point, and they may have originally, way back in 1744, have been the actual House of Saud there, Arabs living there. But they've been eliminated somewhere along the line, and we now have the chameleons, or the ones who pretend to be infested. Now, they've been in power since 1744, the House of Saud. And at some point, like I said, they certainly they lost that olive skin, and these guys keep getting older and older, but those fake looking stupid mustaches, the Beverly Hillbilly shit that they parade around in Washington and everywhere else in the world with is just fucking joke. They're hiding. Take it off and put a suit on this guy and tell me what he looks like. An Arab? But what he's done, him and his brothers, is they've been in power since 1744, but this group were taking Bedouin virgins into their fucking hell fucking boudoirs regularly for decades and decades. Not hundreds of years since 1744, but these things have now got 15 to 30,000 descendants of Mohammed bin Saud and brothers. Now, how much fucking of poor slave girl Bedouin virgins would you have to do, you and your fucking brothers? Because these guys have not been in charge for that long, maybe 50 years. To pump up a fucking descendant bloodline, direct descendants of up to 30,000, 15,000. They were impregnating them by the fucking hundreds, folks. And if that doesn't disgust you enough, I got something else to show you while we take these fuckers down piece by piece. They happen to be very good friends with a certain group of, shall we say, Christian, believers. And, think about this, people. Do you get this? And these ugly fucks had bred into that. They're also an extension of these guys. They're the fucking evil. And they have been over there. And I've heard stories about the Bedouin versions in the rape rooms. Do you want to find rape rooms? Saddam and his sons never had one. But I can tell you one thing for sure. My money says that the bulk of this huge direct descendant line of Mohammed bin Saud and brothers has been done on massive rapings of beautiful Bedouin virgins on demand for fucking decades, not fucking hundreds of years. And there they are. How many people, how many guys do you know could say they've got that many kids and direct descendants? Yeah. Oh yeah. And that's who owns the world. The people I just showed you here are all connected, and they all fucking own you and the world. What are you gonna do about it?